Hey, welcome back to another episode of the BBCE podcast. I'm Phil Endris, and I'm here with Steve Hart, the owner of Baseball Card Exchange. And we have a pretty cool topic to talk about today. It's the what-ifs in unopened collecting. Basically, what we're going to do today is explore some of the most exciting hypothetical discoveries in the hobby. And some of these hypothetical discoveries, with Steve being around the unopened industry as long as he have been, have actually come to pass. So, Steve, welcome. Thanks again for joining us.
No problem.
Well, let's dive into this.
Okay.
What would happen if we found one of these, maybe a 1952 unopened case or an 86 Fleer basketball unopened case? That would certainly rock the collecting industry, the unopened community.
Yeah,
Sure.
Especially a 52 case, 53 case, anything like that we know of very few boxes that exist.
Right.
If there was a case or something.
There really has never been a case of 52 or 53 found.
I don't think anything from the 50s has really, you could say, has been found since the Rosen find of some 54 and 55 Bowman and some 59 Fleer Ted Williams.
Okay.
Now that I could think of, going back several decades.
What's the chances of something like that existing? I mean, obviously, it's very, very, very low. But do you think somewhere something like this could exist?
Well, we sure hope. That would be exciting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, you've thought about this. I think about this still to this day. We'll talk about 86 Fleer basketball, but that's.
Yeah.
I have a reoccurring dream about finding a case or two or 10.
It seems to me if something like that's going to pop up, it's going to come from an unknown source who really doesn't even know what they have.
Right.
A distributor, a grocery store, cigarette distributor who threw it in the back corner and, now comes up with it. That's how some of the finds have come to fruition, is people who didn't know exactly what they had but shut down decades ago and just threw it in the corner.
Yeah. So because this is a hypothetical show, we're kind of just spitfiring some things. And I know usually when you're asked what something is worth or could be worth, you take a lot of time into sort of thinking about it before you give a number.
Right.
But just spitfire with me for a moment.
Okay.
If an unopened, and it's a high case.
High number case.
What does a single box go for?
First thing off the top of my head is $10 million. A box. However, if we put 24 of them on the market at once, that's going to make a tough situation to continue to get a number like that.
Yes.
I can give you a few examples. First of all, the unopened part of our industry is a thinly traded market.
Mm-hmm.
The example I think of is like at the National Convention this summer, there's probably going to be 1,000 1965 Mickey Mantles on the floor.
Right.
Various grades, various conditions. But there's probably only going to be 2 or 3 packs of 65 Topps baseball in the room, making it much, much rare. But on the other hand, for every 1,000 people who want a 65 Mantle, whether they're for collection or a set, there's only a handful that want a 65 pack. So it evens it out. So much, much rarer unopened material, much thinner market as far as, who's interested in it. Even though the unopened people are fanatics about their collection and the unopened part of it. So if you put too much of an unknown product or a quality product into the market at once, does hurt the value.
Right.
A couple examples is a couple decades ago, people may not remember, REA Auctions came up with about 30 cases of 75 mini wax from a gentleman in Michigan who had the foresight to buy them all and passed away. So they all went to REA, and they decided to put them all into one auction. I think 2 or 3 lots of 7 to 8 cases. And when this happened, the whole industry said, this is a disaster. You can't put 30 cases of something out and expect anything good to come out of this. And they went, at the time, pretty cheap. If I remember, $600-700 a box. And, the sky was falling for that product. After it kind of got sold out and stuff, I remember setting up at the National and asking $800 a box and couldn't get it.
Wow.
There was too much. However, decades later, now we're $10,000-12,000 a box again.
Still less than the regular issue.
Yes, because of this find, there are more out there.
Right.
But, like I said, it went from a tough sell at $800 when it hit the market to now that the market has eaten it all up and what's been opened, what's been salted away.
Right.
Now it's a $10,000-12,000 box.
Yeah.
So a large find is immediately not going to do much good for the price.
Correct.
Over the long run, it'll be fine.
So back to the 52 tops, high number hypothetical box.
Okay.
There's 24 packs in a box.
Yes.
And there's 5 cards in a pack?
I've only seen one 52 pack open, and I can't remember if it was 5 or 6.
Okay.
And of course, you're going to get 5 or 6 because it was so crudely packaged and
Right.
shipped out.
So 120 to 140 cards.
Right. And remember, the mantel's a double print,
Oh, yeah.
So-
so you
so you might get 2 a box.
then, yeah, you might get 2 a
A
box.
perfect collation would have put it about 1 point something.
And what do they value the PSA 10, the Diamondbacks PSA 10 mantle?
Oh, I mean, if that comes to market, it could be $20-30 million.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So then if
There's
you,
only 3, and there's a lot of people out there that have to have it.
yeah. So
A lot of them may not even be in our industry,
right.
but they know that's the piece to have.
Right. So then 10 million that's probably what it would be worth.
Yeah, that was just the first number that hit me.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be
Opening
worth
it
more.
may be better,
Yeah.
but of course, if you get all 90-10 cards, then it wasn't worth it, centering wise.
What's a 9 worth?
I think a sale was made a few years ago at 5 or 6 million. I think it was private, probably more now.
Yeah.
I mean, that 9.5 that Heritage ran last summer, I think 12-13 million.
Yes.
So
we've talked a lot about 86 Fleer. It's just my favorite product. It was I've said this in other podcast. It was the first pack of cards that really I
Right.
opened.
Yep.
What happens if we find a case of that? So right now, the markets, we're in the year 2025 right now, early 2025. Market's probably 125 to 150
Correct.
on a box. We find a sealed case with 12 FASC
FASC boxes. out of
FASC
it. Yeah.
boxes. What are those worth?
Good question. We know of one sealed case that exists, and it's still in sealed form and salted away. Who knows if it'll ever come back out? Another case, wrapped FASC boxes, $250,000,
Two.
$250,000,
Okay.
$300,000.
Yep. So,
Again, the first few are going to grab that, but as more and more hit the market, they'll probably drop slightly.
yeah.
But it's such a popular item, and only 12 wouldn't be massively crushing the amount in the market.
Yeah, no, I think there's enough clientele for 12.
Yes. Yep.
And 250 is it's a big number,
Yeah.
but it's not a huge
No,
number.
no, not in our industry
Not a-
anymore.
right. It's a number that's there's going to be a lot of people that will give some action at 250.
I mean, if it was an item where it was only one, which of course would be impossible because there'd have to be 12. I think if there was one box with the FASC kind of idea to it, $400,000 or $500,000.
So a question, and this is along the same topic, but just a little different. We find this hypothetical case. We would love to buy it, but if we don't buy it, it's probably going to find its way to Baseball Card Exchange for authentication.
Right.
Do you wrap those boxes and label each box as box number 1 from a seal case, or how would that happen if it came to BBCE?
We try to stick with the same type of what we do, setting precedents that we've done in the past. Sometimes we will take a certain stance of a case by case basis. Something like that, we would definitely consider possibly putting each box where it was located in the case, top row, top left,
Okay.
and writing a letter for each box,
Oh, yeah.
stating maybe where it was in the case,
That's interesting.
everything like that. So a case-by-case basis, we probably would want to do something special like that.
Yeah, especially a case that's so, iconic
Yes.
as the 86 Fleer. And then, if those ever got, went to auction and they were sold, individually, it would be cool to know where your box was. And,
Yep, exactly.
And that's the
The
problem.
good thing about an 86, 87 Fleer box, too, is it's one of the boxes out there, 6 figures and higher, that can be opened with
Yes.
a chance of doing okay.
Right.
most products, when you get to like that, you'll get absolutely crushed opening a box. Say the 79-80 O-Pee-Chee hockey.
Right.
There's only one card and they're worth much.
Mm-hmm.
Crude printing, crude cutting, you can take a $150,000 box and end up with $5,000.
Right.
86, 87 Fleer you can open, and there's 3 or 4 Jordans, 3 or 4 of many Hall of Fame rookies.
Right.
And, 10s aren't impossible, so.
No. Yeah, they're not impossible. And then, you think if we're using that number, that 250,000, a PSA 10 Jordan is what, 150 to 200?
Get you 75% of the box value back.
Yep, exactly.
And a lot of times, if the Jordans are cut centered in a box, they're probably going to be cut pretty centered throughout the whole case.
Yeah, I think we've noticed just from talking to people that have opened the 86 Fleer boxes, it's usually, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a Jordan that's really well centered, there's at least another Jordan that's really well centered.
Yes. Yep.
And then the third one can kind of be a wild card. It can be just a little off center, or it can be close. But yeah, it's sort of if you hit one that's good in that box, that's factory box.
Yep.
It's a good chance that all of them.
Good chance they're going to be decent. Yep.
Yeah.
Same with the other cards.
Okay, so we talked about 52. We talked about 86 Fleer basketball case. Is there any other cases? I mean, all 50s product is, as you said, are tough. Is there anything else that sort of comes to your mind? Maybe a 60.
Yeah, the 79 O-Pee-Chee case that was sold last year.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing find. Sealed cases, fresh boxes. That was an item that I kind of mentioned to Heritage is best sold as one piece. Somebody's going to buy it. It's probably going to get salted away, and who knows when we'll see it again.
Mm-hmm.
Wrapping 16 of those boxes and selling them box by box, obviously you'd get huge money, but with people knowing there's 13, 14 more behind it,
right,
it would get tougher down, as you go down, getting the same price as you did for the first few.
Correct. So another couple products to me that comes to mind, one, because I just think they're super rare anyway, 69 Tops basketball.
Oh, yeah, that would be amazing.
61 Fleer. Now
there has been finds of 61 Fleer basketball.
So that's not out of the question, but
right.
What would happen on a 69 Tops basketball box?
Those are in huge demand. Yeah, the boxes are in huge demand. I can only think of 2 that I know of that we've authenticated. Those would be great.
Yeah.
Again, at first it wouldn't help because there would be so many of them. But as long as you were willing to buy and hold, eventually they'll be strong again. So
then my mind goes to football.
Okay.
Football, I'm thinking 65 Tops football.
Yeah, again, kind of like the 69 basketball. I think I've only done 1 or 2 boxes, and that would be a huge one. I thought about this recently about some unopened sealed cases that aren't that old that I would love to see appear.
Okay.
Garbage Pail Series 1.
Oh, yeah.
Sealed case.
Yeah.
Boxes we see all the time.
Yeah.
They still fetch 15, 18,000, but we haven't seen a sealed case in the longest time.
Right.
84 Fleer update.
Oh, yeah.
Baseball. The last case we did have was opened.
Okay.
But a sealed case, I can't remember the last time we came across one of those. 92 Stadium Club football high number.
Oh, yeah.
Not the greatest product in the world, but rare. We had a sealed case 10, 12 years ago, and that was the last time I saw it.
I remember that case. Yep.
84 USFL.
Right.
We've had 1 or 2, but again, those don't pop up. So those are more recent type of cases that, would be very interesting, especially the Garbage Pail.
Right.
Star Wars Series 1.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. Have you ever seen a sealed case of Star Wars Series 1?
I've seen the other cases sealed, and I know of one that Series 1 case that's out there sealed, but, most of that is hearsay.
Okay.
So I've never, I can't say, if you offered me money to fly you somewhere and show you one, I couldn't do it right now. Just by hearsay, I think there's one out there.
I remember years ago, and this was before I was affiliated with Baseball Card Exchange, you used to advertise that you would pay $1,000. I think
that was when Reed worked for us. And he advertised $5,000 just to see an 86 Fleer basketball case.
Oh, wow.
And nobody took us up on the offer.
Nobody.
So, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to take your money. And Reed would be like, well, it'd kind of be sticking it in my eye. You just show it to me and we'll pay you the $5,000. Nobody was able to do it.
Nobody. Yeah. But we have definitely heard rumors. How many people have we heard that says, "Oh, I have a case of that," or "I have 6 boxes of that"?
Yep.
They never
materialized.
Never materialized.
That's one of those items, though, it was so poorly. It was such a poor product when it came out. It was $12 a box. You couldn't sell it.
Right.
$10 a box. You couldn't sell sets for $9. So that is something. There's a possibility an old candy wholesaler maybe has thrown into the back.
Yes.
That would pop up, and they don't even know they have it.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
I think last year, me and you bought a partial case, and that's exactly what happened. It came from somebody who walked into a store, and it had partials, and I think it just came from somebody who had it left over from the 80s.
Right.
With a bunch of other junk. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, very cool find, very fun find. That was a year ago, wasn't it?
About that, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay, and if you're just talking individually about the cards, I don't really think it affects the individual value of the cards if a case or two of...
No, not really. That kind of goes back to my 65 mantle theory.
Right.
Everybody wants a 65 man. If there was a 69 basketball case to show up, everybody still wants an Alcindor rookie in the collection. Right. So,
Well, good deal. So that's all we have for this episode. We dove into a little bit of the hypotheticals. It's always fun to do that. That's what makes this job fun. That's what makes collecting fun is, I don't know, when you're sitting down daydreaming, thinking about walking into an old barn with a tarp over a pallet.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And opening or taking the tarp off the pallet and seeing 1986 flat.
We've had that happen to us. And, of course, usually it's 88 Donruss and 87 tops.
Yeah, but that you get butterflies in your stomach when you go into places like that.
Especially when they call it old.
Yes.
Old unopened material.
Yes.
Well, old to some people is 80s stuff. So
that's right. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to check us out, subscribe to our channels, and comment below. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.